This video is a film study look at Brian Branch, who kind of returned to form in Week 10 against the Washington Commanders. He had 1.5 sacks, 7 tackles, 1 TFL. Looked pretty good in coverage as well as the Lions overwhelmed Washington 44-22. I say look pretty good in coverage. There's definitely one play, at least two, that'll be a cause for discussion and perhaps an opportunity for us to be critical. Of course, I'm referring to the 4th and 3 touchdown pass to Deebo Samuel in the third quarter. Branch looks like he's expecting Amik Robertson to switch it. Amik Robertson and everyone else is playing basically cover zero or pure man. So I suspect initially that Branch is wrong, but the more that I watch the play, the more I just think both guys could be at fault for not having a higher level and more efficient pre-snap and post-snap communication. One observation that I wanted to throw out there last week, and I think I actually talked about after the loss to the Vikings, was he looked sluggish against Minnesota. His first game back after the suspension, missing the Tampa Bay Bucs win at home. And look, it's rare for you to hear me say that because I'm such a huge fan of Brian Branch. He's a great player. He's very unique. I would say he's a singular talent, but him and Kyle Hamilton, there's a lot of crossover, difference in how they're being utilized in 2025. Branch is more of a back-end safety. Kyle Hamilton at this point has been moved up in front in what is now the Ravens' base nickel defense. But to me, Branch looked more like himself in this game against Washington. A return to form against a team that was, clearly outmatched. I got 11 plays queued up here. I think Branch is, people refer to a great two-way player in basketball, sometimes in football, like Travis Hunter, right? Branch, to me, I like to refer to movement directions. He can move in all 8 directions efficiently, but with force, agility. He can come downhill and attack the quarterback. He's involved in 2 sacks in this film study that I'll show you. Make tackles against the run, move backwards or laterally side to side in man-to-man coverage. We'll get the film started here. Branch will be spot shadowed in yellow in pretty much every iteration. Just an illustration, I think, of how he can add to the run game. He actually almost kind of switches this in terms of gaps between him and Anzalone. It's a 2nd and 5 on Washington's first possession. You would think that this is a read by the way that Marriott is standing, but it would be sloppy technique of him if it is a read. It's not. They're actually calling this basically a zone kick. The tight end is coming to kick out Aiden Hutchinson at the top side of our screen. Watch how violent Branch is with his hands as one of these tight ends steps to him and basically tries to release inside to go get Alex Anzalone. And Branch, not only is he able to get off the block, well, that tight end's actually not trying to block him, but he prevents that tight end from getting up to Anzalone as well. We'll let it run through a couple of times right here just so you can see the finish. Everything Brian Branch does when he's moving forward is violent. It's the way it should be. I'll give you the end zone angle of this one so you can confirm one thing. It is Detroit's base 4-3 defensive structure. Anzalone, Campbell, and Barnes. But Branch has been rolled up to match the personnel group. 13 personnel by the Washington Commanders. Again, the steps by Mariota would be considered quite sloppy if this is an option play. It's not. It's a zone kick after the tight end goes in return motion. You can see the tight end's motion pulls the linebackers, including Branch. He's operating as a second-level defender here. And watch the way that he fits this. He basically goes underneath and allows Anzalone to cross over the top. Almost like a gap exchange occurs with a defensive end and an inside linebacker. In addition, his contact with 77 prevents 77 from getting up to Anzalone. All 3 of those guys, Anzalone, Branch, and Aiden Hutchinson, who was supposed to be kicked by this tight end, are involved in the tackle. I didn't see that level of physicality from Branch last week. In any case, it ended up being a 2-yard gain that creates this 3rd and 3 again on Washington's first possession. The Lions drop out into a cover 3 here. It gives you an opportunity to talk about the differences in how certain teams play their free safeties. Consistently in a cover 3, the Lions, especially with Kirby Joseph on the field, will allow their free safety to kind of orient to the trip side and look for work. Basically, look for some type of crosser that he can jump or defend and take away from a coverage standpoint. As far as Branch goes, he's dropping out into the flats. Underneath, it's not a clean line of all 4 defenders. You can see 3 defenders overlap by that line there, Branch being the 4th. Cover 3 corner, both of those guys getting vertical, free safety in the middle of the field looking for work. Ends up being a throw as Mariota escapes out to the left side. Anzalone does what he always does when there's secondary contained opportunity, comes downhill. Branch as well. Force an incomplete pass by Mariota that leads to a punt. Branch obviously didn't make a play on that last snap that I showed you, but I always like to provide a balanced look at a player, good, bad, or indifferent, or in this case, just to illustrate the coverage variability that Kelvin Sheppard chose, a cover 3 on the first third down that they saw. In addition, how Detroit plays their free safeties a little bit more aggressively than other people do in a cover 3 delineation. Second possession, 2nd and 10. Lions are up 7-0. He's not going to be targeted here, by the way. He's essentially in a cover 2. Post-snap, you can see it's zoned to the bottom side of our screen. So you got Amik and both safeties. In addition, 3 second-level defenders. Mariota's not reading any of that at all. He's obviously focused on the top side of the screen where you've got man. Gives you a really good idea if you're unaware of what a zone turn or a man turn is by the fact that Terrion Arnold's back was turned so abruptly, so distinctly post-snap. Compare that to Amik Robertson, whose back is turned to us, the viewer, but his chest, eyes, and face mask are oriented towards the middle of the field, whereas Terrion Arnold will be considered to be looking up at the sideline. That's a man turn, Amik zone turn. Really nice job by Arnold. It was unfortunate that we went down with a concussion. I thought it was basically 2 weeks in a row where he looked really smooth and calm and relaxed with the ball in the air while he was in coverage. A little bit more aggressive usage of Branch here. He's lined up over the tight end in a press man look pre-snap on a 3rd and 9, Washington's third possession. So a couple of cool things. Number one, as this tight end steps down to Muhammad to chip him, Branch is going to slide underneath of that block. So him and Muhammad are essentially exchanging gaps. Branch gets a free run through the B gap, number one. Number two, Hutchinson's lined up as one of your, quote, inside linebackers in a 3+1 dime look. So really cool situation. Basically, Barnes is up here. They've got one D tackle, I think that's Tyleik Williams on the field, and then two D ends, one of which is Muhammad, and the other one, Hutchinson, who's lined up at inside backer. Along with Branch's stunt through the B gap, they loop Hutchinson all the way around here, around the stunt or the blitz from Jack Campbell. The combination of those two things really gives Detroit an opportunity to collapse the pocket on this concept. Cool spin move, man, by Branch. He does this twice. I'll show you both iterations of it. Basically utilizing his momentum and his inside foot, his right foot, to spin off of that running back and play through contact. He was in attack mode on this play, coming downhill. He's a spectacular football player moving in all directions, but particular coming downhill as a blitzer because he's such a better athlete compared to most quarterbacks that you face. Same play from the end zone angle. You can see him tightly aligned up over the tight end who's going to chip down on Muhammad, and that allows Branch to switch and go through the B gap, as well as Hutchinson looping all the way around. So you can see Hutchinson getting a low pad level, looping around. Branch with a free rush. He's clearly preparing himself to take on the running back and spin off of him. Go finish off the sack. I think he's got 2.5 sacks now on the year. We'll show you the one that he split with Lopez a little bit later in the game. Moving forward here to the fourth possession, this is 2nd and 9. Detroit has opened up their lead to 22-3. He's lining up to make it look like they're going to play man initially. Tight end is located here. Millette, and then outside corner, I think, is Amik Robertson up to the top. Post-snap, however, he's going to move out of there, and they basically shift into a Tampa 2. I only have so much screen to deal with, so this angle isn't perfect to illustrate the middle of the field free safety, dropping to a half-field coverage. In addition, Campbell is the Mike linebacker running in between the hashes in a Tampa 2. Really, the Tampa 2 is a cover 3 deep. In my opinion, I wonder if Campbell shouldn't take this route here and should instead proceed running vertical. I don't think he's going to stop this ball being thrown. It's a 41-yard completion to Lane. I initially thought that maybe Branch was a little slow in his turn or his transition here, but he is able to make a play on the ball and at least challenge it. Lane just makes an even better play coming down with it. What I'm talking about for Campbell is He's taking the first route that fronts him up. Maybe Detroit's, teaching it that way. Maybe this is a particular variation of it. Generally, you want that guy to get depth. Having said that, if he does get depth, it's possible that Mariota reads that and throws this route underneath of him, basically more shallow than Campbell would be if he continued running in the middle of the field like I advocated for a moment ago. Really great catch by Lane. Again, it generates 41 yards for them, and they go down and get a touchdown. The Lions, however, answered with a field goal. They were virtually unstoppable on offense, took a 25-10 lead into the half. This one, the first time that I checked it out, I immediately thought, okay, that's on Branch. He needs to go with Deebo Samuel. This is a very difficult cover in a man situation with the nickel DB as a blitzer. It's a 4th and 3 in the third quarter. Millette is going to blitz. He's on the same side as Aiden Hutchinson. So basically what I think Kelvin Sheppard is asking Hutchinson to do is just occupy the right tackle. So hold, I don't mean hold like grab and hold, but perhaps briefly, occupy the right tackle such that the nickel DB can blitz all the way around, or perhaps fit through the open B gap. Not a huge fan of this blitz call, I'll be honest with you, because I think it puts Branch at a real deficit in terms of leverage. It appears as if Branch thinks that they should switch this. So Branch would take over this route by the outside receiver, and then Amik Robertson would handle Deebo Samuel on what I would just basically refer to as a slot fade. Because of the deficit of leverage that he has, I still think this is a poor coverage concept to go to, cover zero basically, versus a slot fade. Now, of course, Kelvin Sheppard, nor Brian Branch, nor myself knows that it's going to be a slot fade, but playing man from this inside leverage means that route is a 7 out of 10 opportunity if you're talking about a high-level wide receiver and a good quarterback. I know that you're facing a backup in Marcus Mariota. My point is, I don't think you've got great leverage to defend this. I'm sure that it's in Kelvin Sheppard's bag or his list of techniques to allow the guys to switch this. There needed to be communication pre-snap, in my opinion, to either A, call off the blitz, or B, make Amik aware that, hey, we might have to switch this pending number 2's release. The ensuing possession, Washington had cut the lead to 32-16. Like I said, they're now up 35-16 after a field goal. 1st and 10, and again, you're going to get Branch on a blitz. First of all, I love the design of this stunt. It seems to me as if Sheppard's getting a little bit more comfortable with certain pressures by this front group, front 6 or front 7, as well as a really brilliant, another second brilliant example of a spin by Brian Branch, this one to the inside. Part and parcel to the stunt by Branch is a really cool added variation by McNeil and Barnes. McNeil is, and I'll give you the end zone angle so you can see it for yourself. McNeil is basically going upfield to stay in the B gap. Barnes is going underneath. That pulls the running back with him, and that really frees up or creates this one-on-one opportunity for Branch, which he takes advantage of. In addition, there's only 2 receivers in the route. So by my math, if you exclude the quarterback, you've got 8 blockers in here in the pass pro scheme initially, with a late tight end releasing out at the top side of our screen. And still, Detroit's blitz was able to get home, and Branch was able to be a part of his second sack. I'll give you the end zone angle so you can see the stunt. I think it's Lopez who splits the sack with him from a nose tackle position. So here's the way that it works out. Branch is lined up to the outside. He's going to go on this outside in path against the tight end. It's a 12 personnel group. D tackle's getting upfield. I believe that's Tyleik Williams, but I could be wrong. And then Barnes is going underneath after lining up between Williams and Branch, or between that D tackle and Branch, whoever it is. So he stunts to the A gap. He kind of gets jacked up a little bit by the running back who goes pads below his pads. It's not Tyleik Williams. It's actually Alim McNeil. My apologies for that. The spin by Branch is exquisite. Tight end realized that he was going to be, probably called for a hold if he didn't let go. I haven't seen Branch do that spin a ton. He's normally a guy that takes on blockers with force and just kind of overwhelms them. In any case, it gives you an idea, if you're unfamiliar, which you're not as a Lions fan, if you're tuning in this long, the sphere of influence that he has moving forward, as well as his ability to move in all directions in a very abrupt manner while keeping excellent body control. Still on that same possession, 3rd and 3. They're going to force the punt here after Millette has a pass defense. I believe that's against Deebo Samuel. Motion across by the tight end is going to pull Branch with him. This is very reminiscent of an early pass play in the Lions' first meeting with the Bears in Detroit, where Caleb Williams was criticized for throwing the ball off target. In my opinion, Branch does a great job on these types of routes where a receiver or a tight end starts off to the outside and then begins to return it to the inside, kind of like that little shake slant or delayed slant. Now, the tight end actually sits down here, but we're talking about, A, the leverage that Branch plays with, inside leverage, staying inside of the tight end, and then B, his ability to have eyes on the quarterback and recognize when the ball, quote, should be thrown. It's a really great play by Millette, in my opinion. I'll rewind this a couple of times in slow motion so you can see it. Being able to recover, get his hands on it, knock it away from Deebo Samuel, and force another punt. Detroit eventually went up 41-16 there. The final play that I'll show you, this is, I believe, the snap when Branch goes out after this play with an injury, but he returned on the next possession. So it looks like 3+1 spy, which essentially I would refer to as a cover 2 man look. The only difference is you've clearly got one middle of the field free safety. Branch is set up on the other side. He's eventually going to play man on this tight end. Pre-snap, it certainly looks like Anzalone would play man there. Jack Campbell man here. And you've got your cover 2 man look with 2 deep safeties. Branch's alignment being staggered or differential from Harper is what, to me, kind of gives it away, but hindsight's 20/20. Anzalone's not going to guard the tight end, which is what you would typically get in their cover 2 man. He's going to blitz to the outside. Kind of gets chopped down by the running back, number 1. Number 2, a ton of blitz pressure here. So you've got one middle of the field free safety post snap, man-to-man, man across the board for everyone here. Branch taking a great angle to go get the tight end. First of all, he's got great agility and burst, and he's got a great set of eyes in terms of being able to identify where the route or the receiver, in this case a tight end, is going, and the physicality and strength to make the tackle at the end. He had 7 tackles, 1.5 sacks, 2 quarterback hits. Definitely more in line, I think, with what we would expect out of Brian Branch, who we know is very active, aggressive, especially coming downhill and challenging the ball at the catch point. Perhaps his coverage grade for various metrics is not that good this week. I still think he looked quicker, smoother in his transitions, more decisive coming downhill, had a couple of good tackles. The blown coverage or mix-up with Amik, I'm sure that at this point it's been covered in a press conference. For me, my organic idea or impression first was that's Brian Branch's fault. I don't like the coverage, inside leverage like that. If we're going to play man on a slot fade, I want my guy to be lined up head up, normally in a press man position, basically like Arthur Millette was pre-snap. But they could have just as easily switched it. I'm sure that's an option. It just wasn't communicated pre-snap, and it's difficult to do that on the fly. Probably a bad idea to blitz the nickel, like I said. This looked like a typical Brian Branch game to me, way better than last week. I thought, actually in the middle of the second quarter against the Vikings, I thought that he looked like he might be hurt. I'm glad to see that was not the case. He wasn't on the injury report at all. If you guys enjoyed the video, please let me know in the comment section. Number 1, probably a limited selection of plays and a shorter video than perhaps you're used to. At this point here recently, most of my videos have been in the 25, 28, or even 30-minute range. This one was pretty straightforward. I think Branch played a cleaner brand of football, even though the coverage on the back end, he certainly allowed some catches. Whether you attribute the touchdown to Deebo Samuel or not doesn't really matter to me. Would just prefer that him and Amik are more so on the same page, number 1. And perhaps number 2, Kelvin Sheppard gives them the option to check out of that blitz in the first place to not put themselves at a deficit from a leverage standpoint. In my opinion, Branch returned to form here in this game, moving in all 8 directions, but specifically playing with force and being able to ricochet off of potential blockers and still make plays. The 2 sacks clearly count in that illustration or that description, but the first play that I showed you, the run concept where he shrugs off the tight end who's trying to get up to Anzalone, that right there is an immediate hint for you that Branch looks really comfortable in the game and in the position that they had him aligned in. If you guys think other Lions fans would enjoy this film study look at Brian Branch and how he played in the 44-22 win over the Commanders, please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach. Appreciate you guys' time.